Well, good afternoon, modelers. Welcome back to part two of the Discovery Enterprise build. So I kind of skipped from my last video where I was working on the Buzzard collectors and the engines. I got the Buzzard collectors finished and they looked great, and then I kind of detoured from that into the saucer section, just because I just wanted to play with that and see how hard that was going to be to wire up, and actually it wasn't too hard, so it's pretty easy. Um, I did paint the dome's framework, as well as the little bit of window dividers, which I don't know how you can see them with the light off. You can kind of see them in there. The little window dividers there on the glass. And then for light diffusion, a little more light diffusion, I just sprayed it with some white, really thin white Tamiya paint, and that actually gave a really nice frosted look to that. Really not a lot of issues I can say about the saucer section as far as assembly goes. There is one major issue though that I had a beef with, and I don't know if it was my error with light blocking I did or what happened. But when I went to put all the window inserts in, they all went in just fine, except for this one. This one gave me a problem. I did go in and clean all this out with acetone around the edges, the glue points, so it fit better. But what I was running into was when I put the window insert in, it looked like it fit well, and I dry fitted it first, and I thought, oh, that's pretty good. I squeezed it in there tight. But then when I looked up at the window right here, this top ridge was actually pulling away and leaving a big gap in between, and the bottom wasn't locking in really tight either. So I was like, okay, well, that kind of irks me a little bit, because this was in flush, no problem, but this was a little bit warped, so it was kind of popping up. So the best way I figured to solve that was trusty CA glue. Traditionally, I don't like using CA glue on models because it's not a fix-all. To be honest, it's not recommended to use it because CA glue is simply a bridge between two plastic points, where modeling glue actually dissolves the plastic and fuses it together. So that's why they recommend using modeling glue or cement versus CA, because CA eventually could possibly break loose because it's not fusing the parts together. It's just bridging the parts. And like all glues, they eventually deteriorate. So, but in this case, I needed something that's going to set really fast, and CA was my best friend at that point. So how I fixed it, not too hard. I simply just took a little bit of a bead of glue. Let me get a pointer here and I'll show you. A little bit of a bead of glue, and I ran it just around the rim of the back side, where underneath this top lip. Put the part in, and I just squeezed my thumb on this side and then my finger on the top section of the window right here, like that, and I tilted it this way kind of towards me, and then it was still popped up enough to where I could squeeze in some kicker. And I try to remember, I think I actually dropped a little bit of kicker in the front here, and I made a little right here just to hit that glue spot. And what that basically was, it locked that corner in tight, and then I just kind of repeated the process. I held it like this, dropped some more kicker in, and I kept doing this like all the way around, and then that pretty much locked in this top bridge flush with the window. And then I just kind of repeated that process. I held down the lower section right here and this part tight, and I super glued the outside of it, and then I used the kicker. I did it all the way around, and that pretty much locked that in to where it's pretty level, or pretty flush with the window. So that was my major gripe, was this didn't want to fit really well, and it just looked unsightly to me, so I wasn't happy. So that's what the one gripe I got to say about that. The rest of it went in no problem. As far as if you're wondering how I painted these panel lines to make them, as clean as they are, very easy actually. I took the base color And I did, well, first I took black and I painted black inside the panel lines, and then I went over with about 2 or 3 coats of the base color, which is titanium silver, and I let it sit for about a good day to dry. I mean, you can do half a day, that's fine, but you want to make sure it's thoroughly 100% dry. And then I came in with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and a little Q-tip, and I didn't saturate the Q-tip a lot. I just kind of, I dipped in the alcohol and then I dabbed it on my towel. I just wanted it damp. I didn't want it dripping. And then you just very lightly just go like that. Go back and forth. Try not to go with the same angle as the panel line. Go across the panel line like this all the way around, and then clean it up. And what happens is it takes away all the paint from the top and it leaves all the paint on the inside of the panel. I did that for the dome, and I also did that for the little dividers for the windows up front, and that worked out really well, as you can see. As far as lighting goes, pretty simple. I actually referenced some videos from TrekWorks on this one because I liked how he did his lighting, and he had some really good information as far as some modifications you'll have to make for the lighting when you put it in. If you get a chance, go check out his video. That's Boyd Crompton over at TrekWorks. He did this build, and he did an awesome job, and the build came out beautiful. So I would recommend checking him out. You'll love it. So I kind of referenced his how-to video, or his video on how to do the lighting, and he did a very simple lighting setup. 2 strips going angles like this, and then this one's got 3, 1 across, 2 sides. That together provides more than enough light that you need. So I did that, and I used SMDs for the nav lights. I know in the show they're not flashing, but I wanted flashing nav lights, so I'm putting flashing nav lights in. And I also didn't want them, I didn't want little domes for the lights. I wanted them flush mounted. They just look better that way. So I had a bunch of these. I'm not sure what the size is for these, so I apologize, but they're pretty tiny. I'm trying to get a in focus here. Focus. Why aren't you focusing? Oh, there it goes. Okay, so these are little SMDs, super tiny. I wired them up and got them all set up, and I went to place them in in their proper locations, and I did run into a few problems with that. It's not a fault of round 2 on this one, because I provided a lighting kit for all of this, and this ship was accommodated build-wise for the lighting kit. So not their fault on this one. It's just a modification you'll have to make, and it's all on the lower section of the saucer. So very simple. The first thing you have to do is on 3 of the window inserts, you're gonna have to cut the window insert in half. Basically the part that goes flat on the here, right at the bend point, just cut that off with a little hobby saw, and then put that in, and then you can fit your SMD right inside that little divot there, and then seal it and then light block it. I use Tulip for light blocking. The reason why you do that is because if you do not do that and you simply put the SMD in the little divot that they provide on this plastic insert, what happens is the entire window will glow red or green. I don't want that. So you have to cut that off and isolate it, otherwise your whole window will light up. And also the other thing it has on it, it actually has little nubs that come up through these holes to form domes, which I didn't want those anyway. So slice them in half on the front, starboard, and port side. Put your lights in and make sure and light block them, otherwise you're going to see the bleed through the window. You don't want that. The other modification is they did actually come with a little bit of a divot right here. You can kind of see that. But it's not enough of a divot to accommodate the SMD. And what happens is, being the fact that these lights on the upper section are extremely close to the outer edge, they rest right on that ridge, right on the outer rim, and even with the divot in place, it's still not enough. So you're going to have to take a file or a hobby knife and just kind of make a little more of a indentation on the on both sides and the front, and then when you put it together, the SMD will fit flush, and you won't have an issue with the hull or the upper saucer kind of bowing where the nav lights are located at. So remember, slice off your plastic window insert and make a little divot up here for the light. If you don't do the lighting, if you do not go this route and you do the lighting kit route, don't worry about doing any of this modification, because these are already set up for lights, so you don't have to even worry about that. You can actually just put everything in place and paint the little nubs their appropriate colors. But if you do it this way, that's what you got to do. The other thing I did for modification on the glass piece or the plastic inserts was I just cut out this little section right here with a drill, and then I painted it, or I filled it with canopy glue and painted it red. I did that for the photon launchers because they've been drilled out. And again, I didn't want to have any windows glowing red, so I just cut that out and isolated it, and then good to go. And then I painted everything with a little bit of white, thin white Tamiya paint for frosting, for light blocking or diffusion purposes. The last thing I did for the lights, the impulse engines, and as you can see, I got them in and I got them all painted up, and I think they came out really sharp. They don't look like they're glued in there. They look like they're just molded in my opinion. So really happy with that. I cut all the standoffs out for the lights in this kit because I didn't need them. But I did keep these two standoffs for the impulse, because I was going to put the LEDs behind them. I was going to do a little bit of a light strip, but I was worried about light bleed through the windows, so I wanted more of an isolated light towards the back. And I put them in, and they looked okay. I wasn't too terribly unhappy, but I really wasn't happy. I was getting a very kind of a point of light, and this is even after I frosted these with the white paint. I don't know if you can actually see in the back, but they're white on the back. And don't worry about that changing the color of the light out here. It will not, because as long as it's got red first and you spray the white down, it'll just diffuse it. It will not change the color. But I wasn't happy with how the light was, and I realized, okay, maybe I got these lights too close, because I had them right in the position of the standoffs where they're supposed to be, which is, you can see the standoffs right here. The light was all the way up, like about that far from the back. So I was getting a lot of dark spots on either side, which I wasn't happy with. So really simple fix. Just back off your light quite a bit. I backed it off until it was literally just peeking out from the front of the standoffs, and I kind of angled it just a fraction, and it took some playing around. I had to actually take the light and look at it with it on and move it around until I got the best placement. And by the time it's all said and done, it gives a pretty even glow through the entire grill. So not really a modification, just a placement issue. Because I don't want the video to go on too terribly long. But anyway, that's pretty much that's the modifications that you'll have to make if you do your own lighting kit with this, and this is how it looks. It looks a little messy, I know, but it's not that bad in my opinion. It works. I've already tested it and it came out pretty good. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to pause the video and get these wires ran through, and then I'm going to get it kind of just press fit together a little bit so I can show you guys what it looks like when it's fully lit. And then once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and just get this thing glued together completely, because I'm ready at this point. And hopefully there's not a lot of sanding I got to do, but I got a bad feeling that I'm going to have a really major seam to fill along the outer edge, but we'll see. So let me pause this. I'll be right back with this thing put together and wired up. So stay tuned. Alright guys, I'm back. So I have it temporarily put together. Now, yes, I know it looks god awful bright right now. The camera is seriously blowing out the lights. It is nowhere near as bright as what you're seeing on camera. It's actually pretty much right where I was wanting to get it. Unfortunately, I cannot do anything about the blowout with the lights. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of video. Um, so, yeah, I mean, it's not a good representation in my opinion because of the fact of the lights being blown out. There's the photons. Um, you can kind of see the windows a little bit, how they look. Not too bad. Whoops, getting in frame. They're going. Let me show the impulse deck. That actually looks pretty decent. You can kind of see how that's a fairly even glow, although it looks a lot more oranger on camera. It's actually more red in person. But I'm really happy with that. It's definitely got the glow I was looking for. It's even, and I'm really happy with that. So, unfortunately, like I said, that's the problem with the camera. What I can do now is actually go ahead and show you what the nav lights look like, and they're not flashing at the moment, so they're going to be just static on, but I'll just briefly show you what they look like when they're actually turned on. And then I'll explain a little something about those lights. It is kind of a helpful tip that I learned kind of the hard way. I learned a lot of my stuff the hard way. You kind of learn by doing, as the old saying goes. Oops, okay, I'm losing my track here. Is that the one I'm looking for? Wait a second. I think that's what I'm looking for. Losing my train of thought with these wires. Wire management is very important, and unfortunately my wire management is not all the best right now. Let me redo this real quick here. Find what I'm looking for. I have the nav lights actually wrapped or twisted. I can tell which one's which. Okay, I think we're there. All right. So this is a loose fit and all this stuff right now. I do have to admit, this is actually a really nice kit. I'm very happy with it. I'm having fun with it right now. Usually by now I'm pulling my hair out with starships and just wishing I had never started the project in the first place. Kind of like my last build, the Enterprise, the refit one. But so far, I'm really pleasantly pleased with how this is coming out. The engineering is spot on. The detail is absolutely beautiful. And it's not really that hard to wire up. I mean, it is small. I mean, it's a 1/1000 scale, so it's kind of tiny, but even at a tiny size, the lighting's not too terribly bad as far as installation goes. Alright, so I'm trying to find where where did my red one go? I thought I had the red one wired up, but I guess I did not. I had it wired up not too long ago. There it goes. Alright, let me just tie this into the mains. There we go. Okay. I just put those down so I do not touch them. I don't want to fry anything. So, there's my navs. Both sides. And again, they look very, very bright, but they're really not that bright. In fact, they're actually pretty subdued to where I want them. The way I did that actually was I did not use a 470 ohm resistor on these SMDs. I used a 5K resistor. I tried a 10K, a little too dim, and the 5K was spot on. It worked out perfectly. So they're not too bright. They're not spotlight looking lights. They are just your standard nav lights. So I recommend using a 5K resistor, or if you want them dimmer, use a 10K resistor. It's kind of your preference. Um, so that's done. The only thing I recommend too is with any lights, when you do the red and the greens and the whites, the reds don't tend to match up well with the other colors because they draw a lot more energy. So what I ended up having to do was I was able to wire up the red, or I mean the green and the white on the same circuit and share the same resistor to both of them. But when I tried the red, it canceled out some of the lights. I was having issues. So what I ended up doing was doing the green, the white on the same circuit, sharing a resistor, and then the red I isolated to its own separate set of wires and its own separate resistor, and that worked out much better that way. And everything lit and it worked out well. So this is a little helpful tip when you're doing the red, because red can be problematic at times. It's just the nature of electricity. Um, so, but anyway, that's pretty much about it. This thing is done and ready to seal up. So it's going to be in the next video. I'll show you what it looks like when it's together and sealed and everything. And I got some touch-up work done. And I still got to do some detail painting around the outer rim right here. This sensor band needs to be painted as well, and I got to paint in the landing legs as well. So when I get that all done and sealed up, I'll showcase that in the next video. The next video also will be looking into either the secondary hull or the nacelles. I'm not sure which one's going to be, so you'll know when I post the video. I may do the secondary hull just to get it out of my hair, because that's going to be some serious wire management to run that through, because there's not a lot of room in the neck without blocking windows. So yeah, that's pretty much where I stand. I'm going to spend the day getting this thing taken care of and then go from there. So I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. I'm definitely enjoying the fact that I'm not at work right now. I will actually be getting some time off next month. My wife is having surgery on her ankle. She broke it a while back, and the break healed fine, but there's some internal damage with the tenant. So unfortunately now we have to look at surgery. So I'm going to be taking some time off work to stay home and tend to her and make sure she's okay. Walking's not going to be much of an option for her. So during that time, I'll probably, if I'm not done with this by then, I'll be able to finish it, or by then I'll be starting a brand new build. But either way, I'm going to have at least about a week off work to completely work free to get a lot accomplished on other projects. I got some 3D printed projects back here I've got to work on too, that I've been getting into 3D printing, and I have a starship that I actually designed on Tinkercad myself, and it took me weeks to do the design and several prints to get it right, but I eventually got it right and it looks good. It's a weird design. I mean, it's something I just kind of played with, and it's in pieces right now. It's ready for assembly, so that might be a video there in itself. Anyway, I'm rambling, I apologize. So alright, thanks again for watching, everyone. You guys have a great weekend, and next time I see you, we will be further ahead on this build. So take care of yourselves, be safe. It's crazy times right now, so just try to be as safe as you can. Until next time, thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.